Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new Cyberzoic release, and as you can see, it is an incredible one because we've got the newest version of the Utahraptor, and I am so excited for this. Ever since this one was revealed, I was dying to get this one in my hands because I just love the color scheme on it so much. I think it just looks so natural, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this ended up being my favorite version of the Utahraptor, and that's something that can be said, for this newest wave of Cyberzoic figures. The paint apps on these guys have been on another level and have each and every time been my favorite version of the species that have been released so far. So no doubt about that, they deserve some praise for the newest wave and just how good everything looks. But you can see when it comes to the packaging, of course, you've got the nice window area as well as some beautiful artwork over here off to the side of the Utahraptor. Over here on the side, again, 1/18th scale, and of course that image. And then here on the back, you can see the armor and everything that would go with the Utahraptor, the night pilot over here, as well as a shot of the figure, and then a super cool area up here showing off some fantastic artwork and some info down here. So let's go ahead, pop this open, and we'll check it out. So here is everything included. You also, of course, have some assembly instructions, which again, if you are unfamiliar with these figures, definitely important to read that stuff. And as per usual, you have the card, and as you can see, the art for the card is awesome. Absolutely love that, and you can, of course, see the back of the card here with some more information and, of course, a really cool image of the figure. But here, standing before us, of course, is our Utahraptor, and man, this thing is gorgeous in person. I love the color scheme that they've gone with on this one. It just looks so picture perfect for what I would expect to see on a species like this. I think David Silva and Creative Beast Studio really knocked this one out of the park. You also, of course, included have the stand like you usually do. Again, basically giving you the opportunity to display your dinosaur in some pretty dynamic positions by using this to hold it up. You don't necessarily need it, as you can see, even though the tail's actually touching right now, but these figures are usually pretty decent when it comes to standing, and once you get them into a good position, they can balance out and everything. So you don't necessarily need the stand, but if you want more dynamic positions and poses, it's definitely good to have that. You also, of course, have that little soft circle on the underside here to put on the underside of the stand so that it stays nice and safe on your table or shelf or wherever you're going to put it. And then you also have alternate feet, and you can see the alternate feet basically have like different positioned toes. You've got like the toes kind of curled up, so you can have it like the raptor's walking, or maybe if you wanted to have it like the toes up like this, it's really up to you. But you can see, again, it all looks really nice, and you do, of course, have the ability to articulate the toe right here, which is really, really cool to have something like that for a dinosaur like this. So you can really get that toe into an attack position and get that claw up and ready to kill, which is definitely fun. But the paintwork and everything also looks really nice for the alternate feet, and of course you get 2 feet. But then we have our Utahraptor itself, and when we bring that in, you can take a look at that head sculpt and see, of course, it is gorgeous. But just like with the Dryptosaurus, we have already gone over the sculpt of this one. It is just a straight-up repaint, unlike the Dilophosaurus, which did have some differences between the two. This one is just the exact same figure, I believe, and of course just a brand new paint job, and I would say probably a superior paint job over the other one. But you can see, starting here in the head sculpt, you've got like some orangish, sort of like lighter browns here on the tip of the snout. We can also see a darker tone highlighting the nostrils. We actually have a really nice little blue right here in the face, kind of running through the palette and everything right there, which looks really good. We also have some whites that move up and over the top of the head. You can even see a slight yellowish tint that moves up and over that area as well. And then you, of course, have some more of those whites moving down here along the lower jaw. And then you have some really nice kind of spots and patterns that pick up. And I like that some of them are darker, some of them are lighter. So it kind of looks like there's, certain feathers that have like the darker tones, but maybe some of the lighter feathers are over top of those. Like, it just looks super realistic the way that they have painted that area. You also have some darker tones that start here right before the eye that move back and circle around the eye and lead back there, kind of back behind it. You can see the eye actually has a nice mixture of like a dark yellowish, almost like a mustardy yellow tone of color, as well as a brown in there, and again a nice black pupil. It also has a gorgeous gloss coat helping it to shine realistically. And everything about the paintwork here of the head looks great. You actually also have a grayish dry brushing, like a light gray, that has been dry brushed over the top of the head. Again, really impressive paintwork as always. Of course, we've got an articulated jaw for the Utahraptor, and inside the mouth we can take note to that really nice pinkish tone. The teeth as well painted really nice and precisely. There is of course an articulated tongue back there. There's a nice gloss coat included inside the mouth, and you can see the pink there for the upper side as well as the teeth and everything. Again, so nice and carefully and precisely painted. There's just no sloppiness in there at all. And honestly, it's pretty common for these figures to include no sloppiness. They usually are really well done when it comes to the paintwork, because David Silva will settle for no less. But as we move back here into the neck of the Utahraptor, you can of course see all sorts of, lighter and darker tones picking up here. We have kind of like that nice white, but there's actually looks like maybe like a darker wash that's sort of applied there to the white, because it's kind of helping to crawl in between some of the feathers to highlight the feathers there. But you also of course have the darker browns and even blacks that move through and pattern really nice and naturally as you lead back. And of course the darker brown starts to really overtake the majority of the color of the Utahraptor. The white kind of starts to head down south here on the dinosaur as it leads toward the underside, and of course again is primarily taken over by the darker black and brownish tones. Moving down through the neck, same articulation we had on the previous version, which is really nice. Again, definitely works pretty well. You can get some nice up and down motion, left and right. Really smooth articulation in the neck of the Utahraptor, but no different from the previous version. And in fact, the articulation the entire way through this figure should be exactly the same as the first release. As you move back, you can really see, again, variation of color. Like here's a slightly lighter shade of brown, then you've got some darker tones up here that border on almost a black, but then you have some darker browns down here. Like you can really just see, again, I don't know how good it's showing up on camera, but if you have it standing here before you in a really nice light, you can really just appreciate the slight variation of color that has been applied and how smoothly it has been applied. As you move down into the arms, those different shades of browns continue as you lead through, especially out here on the plumage. You can see some more of the variations of browns, but you do also have a light dry brushing, like a light gray dry brushing that moves through that little area as well. I like the fact that they didn't go too flashy when it comes to these feathers in this area. Again, still remaining very natural looking. Arm articulation goes forward and back right there in the upper part, like in the shoulder area. Also can come out away from the body. You as well have elbow articulation and wrist articulation. Now, you don't have the ability to kind of swivel these areas like you do on some dinosaurs, but they still work really nicely. And we can see that the skin texture of the hands is kind of like a yellowish tone, and it also has kind of like an orangish brown wash to it. So we're looking really good as far as that goes, doing a great job of highlighting the skin texture. And then of course we return back to the feathers, moving back up into the arm. We also see the variation of color here for the undersides of the feathers is really nicely done. The claws as well look genuinely sharp, of course, but also have a nice glossy black right there. As you move up, you do of course have some more midsection articulation, which goes left and right really nicely, also up and down, which of course helps to add some more posability to the figure. As you lead along, you've got that white here for the underside, pretty nice and smooth transition up to the darker tones here, leading up along the side of the dinosaur. Also a little bit of a lighter brown here moving along, basically the transition area between the dark brown and the white there. But as you move back, you again have all of the different shades of lighter and darker browns. You have a little bit of that more vibrant kind of lighter brown moving along the back, and then of course the white moving down. You also see some of the darker browns kind of striping and patterning back there through the thigh into the white tone of color, and then the white has pretty much overtaken the feathers before the feathers disappear, leading down into the foot sculpt. And then we have like that yellowish sort of a brown tone, and then some darker browns, still not dark in the grand scheme of things, especially when it comes to this figure, but darker than the yellowish brown moving down along the scoots in the front of the feet and toes. And my camera doesn't want to focus. There we go. You can see how good everything looks. When it comes to the overall foot sculpt and everything, the nails, again, looking really good, very glossy. You can see, like, as I move it, the detailing of the claws on the other foot right there on that other toe looking really good, really shining. And of course, you do also have articulation in the toes on these feet as well, although that one is currently stuck, so it's not moving too well. Sometimes if you just like break these straight out of the packaging, they can be a little bit tough to maneuver. You really have to be careful. See, you can see it moving a little bit. I don't want to move it too much and damage it. It's best to use a hair dryer or warm water to warm up the joints and then move them slowly to kind of break them in. This one, again, straight out of the packaging, isn't, you know, the smoothest when it comes to the toe articulation, but we did show that off earlier with the alternate foot. But you can, of course, see you have leg articulation in the hip, forward and back, also out away from the body, just a little bit, not a whole lot. You as well have knee articulation. Well, you do, but it's, again, another one of those instances where it's stuck, but I'm pretty sure I'd shown that off in the previous review anyway. Still can't swivel, though, which is interesting. I love that you can always swivel, but it's the forward and back motion that gets me sometimes. But knee articulation, you know, as per usual with these figures. Nice articulation in this area, forward and back as well, which can, again, swivel. And then you've got one more spot down here, which can go forward and back and also swivel. So a little bit extra articulation in the lower part of the foot. And then as you move up and you lead out into the tail, you again have the darker tones, even actually a little section of like a really light blue that actually shows up randomly right there, which is pretty cool. And then, of course, the little bit more vibrant kind of orangish brown following along, and then the whites here on the underside. And then as you lead out, you start to kind of break up the darker tones, kind of like we had in the front of the dinosaur, where we start to see more of the white showing up. But they did a really good job of applying kind of like a grayish wash within the white feathers to really highlight those feathers and kind of just add some depth to them, which I think looks really, really good. And then, of course, you have the striping effect as you move out with different shades of browns and the whites and stuff, leading the entire way out through that absolutely magnificent tail sculpt that we have. Even some lighter tones, kind of like some off-whites here on the underside of the tail. As far as the articulation in the tail, you can go up and down, left and right. Same deal here, up and down, left and right. And then this area here is a wire. So you can pose this little area, again, pretty much any and every way you would like. So that's pretty much it as far as the Utahraptor goes. When it comes to the sculpt and paint, you're not going to find much of anything different here on this one. Now, when it comes to a size, I have been measuring them the entire way through. I don't know that I really necessarily need to, but I guess I will anyway, because we already have done this in the previous review. But for a length from the tail to the snout, about 15 inches or around 38 centimeters. And then for a height, of course, in the position it's in currently, just shy of 4 3/4 inches, or pretty much 12 centimeters on the dot. But you can change that, considering it is a fully posable figure. You can stand it up much taller. But for a size comparison, there's only one real comparison I think we need, and that would be with the first version of the Utahraptor, and this is the Beasts of the Mesozoic version next to the Cyberzoic version. And as you can see, they look awesome with each other. And honestly, man, earlier I said that I think the Cyberzoic is my favorite. It's tough to tell. It really is a magnificent version. No matter which direction you go, you are getting an excellent Utahraptor. So I don't know if I could absolutely pick one. I still think it might be the Cyberzoic, but it's a really tough call. I can't say definitively like I could with like the Dilophosaurus or anything. So this one's a toss-up, but they both look incredible, and one honestly has a little bit more. I think the Cyberzoic looks a little more male, and the Beasts of the Mesozoic looks a little more female, so you can have a really nice pair of male and female Utahraptors. But if you happen to get a whole bunch of these, imagine the pack of Utahraptors you could have in your collection. So this brand new Cyberzoic, super articulated, 1/18 scale Utahraptor is absolutely fantastic, and honestly, all of these newer Cyberzoic figures have been on another level of beauty. In fact, I would say, you know, Creative Beast Studio as a whole has been on another level of beauty over the last few waves of their figures, whether it's Cyberzoic or Beasts of the Mesozoic. They have been unreal the entire time for quite a little while. I feel like as soon as the Ceratopsian series ended, which those figures were great, but I feel like they just amped up the realism in their paint jobs and stuff, and like everything just looks more realistic and natural and lifelike all of a sudden. So I'm absolutely excited excited about that aspect. But again, they did another great job knocking this Utahraptor out of the park. Of course, the sculpt is great. It was great the first time around. Absolutely beautiful this time as well. The paint apps, of course, are what is new with this one, and I think they did a really good job of giving this an extremely natural, but at the same time quite flashy color scheme that just looks exactly as I would imagine a Utahraptor would look. They did such a perfect job of blending, aspects of what you would expect to see on like a dinosaur, but having a very bird-like appearance as far as the feathers and everything. It just looks so good. The articulation, of course, is also fantastic on this, just like it is on every Beasts of the Mesozoic or Cyberzoic figure. Some areas currently are a little bit, stiff because I haven't really moved them around much, but once I get them moving, they'll work like a charm. They always do. It's just how these figures are. But overall, this is without a doubt a must-have figure if you ask me. So if you are interested, I will include a link in the description to where you can still get it for the pre-order price, again, on the Creative Beast Studio website. So make sure you check that link, pick this up, and of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.